And so, whatever it feels like is being sought, you already are. Cannot be said enough. This is not a journey. This is not an adventure for the seeker. Right here now in this moment, the seeking has to end. Because the seeking in and of itself is a distraction. The seeking is part of the dream. You already are. Everything that is pointed to is not in the world. It is not in the world of things. It is not in the world of experience. All pointings that are true are to the truth of who you are, not in something that can be found, something that can be landed upon, or grounded into, or grasped in the way that the mind likes to. Because what we are speaking of here is beyond experience. It is the purity of knowing the truth of who you are. It is so incredibly simple. And yet simplicity is something we have learned not to be. We have learned to be pulled by the mind and complexity and drama and story. We have learned to seek to be successful. We have learned to know things and to put importance in knowing things. But none of it has any relevance in the joyous, wondrous, awe-inspiring truth of who you are. We cannot even say it in a way that the mind can understand. We cannot say it in a way that the mind will be settled by. Because in absolute truth, this is terrifying for the mind, because it is a complete loss of control, a loss of all knowing, a loss of all positioning, a loss of all ledges. It is a loss of everything that the mind is created out of. All of the patterns of consciousness that create ego have to be completely surrendered without anyone that can control surrendering them. So we could say your unique view, your dream, your unique dream is created out of everything you have to see through. It is created out of the remainder of your desires, your human desires that keep you bound. And it is created out of all of your deepest fears. And it is only in meeting the disappointment, disillusionment, and hopelessness of all of your desires not being met, and in meeting the absolute devastation and despair of your greatest fears coming true. One thing that you can be absolutely sure of is that the bitterest pill that the me ever has to take will set you free. It is not about appeasing the ego. It is not about remaking yourself. This is not about Humpty Dumpty putting himself back together again. This is about being completely crushed, broken, so that there is nothing left to hang on to. And only when there is nothing left to hang on to can you truly know the truth of who you are. Can you be truly liberated from the great illusion that there is something to seek for, that the me is supposed to be happy or look a certain way, because true happiness is utter freedom from the dream. True happiness is the disappearance of all bondage, right? So we could say your worst nightmare in the dream is the most amazing grace flowing in with the possibility of setting you free if you don't put Humpty Dumpty back together again. Take the bitterest pill, swallow it, feel every single uncomfortable feeling that comes with it, because all that is truly happening is you are releasing old stresses from your nervous system. And as old stresses release from your nervous system, you are releasing all consciousness that can bind you in patterns of egocentricity. You are releasing yourself into the free flow of grace, out of the quagmire of Maya. You are receiving yourself into the flow of grace, receiving yourself, receiving the truth of who you are, receiving your wholeness, receiving your perfection. But it is only the face, in the face of your utter brokenness. What the me would think would be brokenness, what the me would call unbearable vulnerability. And of course, we could say that in the play, there is a process that looks like it is in time, that is the play of life, the patterns of consciousness playing as your unique life, eroding, breaking you down. But it is so important not to keep putting yourself back together, not to keep putting yourself back into a situation that says, oh, this is good, this feels good, now I'm happy, right? You have to be so vigilant to watch. Are you appeasing the ego? Are you finding what the ego wants in a slightly different configuration in order to feel comfortable, in order that subtle ways that the ego sense gets exactly what it wants, and then it can relax, and then it feels happy. It feels happy until the next wave comes in. And what you can be sure of with absolute certainty is that there will be another wave. And they will get bigger and bigger until they knock you over, until you are on your knees, praying, only for the truth, only for the truth. Because this, it's not about the me wanting, desiring, but it is about a sense of knowing that you have inside you that is already alive. And this knowing is the truth of who you are right now. It is the fullness, the richness of your true nature right now. And this knowing guides you into the possibility of true surrender. It guides you effortlessly into resting your head at the feet only of yourself, where you do not give your power to the world, that you give all that feels to be your power to yourself, that your bowing is to yourself. And in that, you are willing to receive all of life, but you are not invested in life. You're not invested in the desires and the wants and the needs of the me that wants it to be this way or that way, that wants to control everything. So as these words come, of course, it's not for the ego to take notes. It's not for the ego to try to work it out. It is to feel the aliveness of your knowing that is already here. It's always only ever about the resonance of your very own knowing that is the knowing of being. It is the knowing with no knower, right? There's no one here that knows. You know without knowing how you know, because there is no knower here. So lay that know-it-all down and just be the knowing. Be the knowing that is your true nature. Don't be the one that is full of vain boastings and idle prattlings. Don't be that one. Be the pure knowing. Be the pure knowing that is empty, empty of everything that this life has gathered. Be so pure, so simple, without knowing how to be pure and simple. Your knowing is already pure and simple. The being in itself is pure, simple, immaculate, innocent gorgeousness that is just shining. You do not have to be worthy. You do not have to be ready. You do not have to be anything other than your simple self right here now. Without knowing how to be yourself, you are very likely to be yourself. Without knowing how to be yourself, you are very likely to fall into just being. Being here now. Simple being. Simple being is openness, is purity, is the beauty of this moment illuminated in and of itself for absolutely no reason. There is no meaning, there is no purpose, there is nothing to understand, nothing to evaluate or analyze, because this moment is not for anyone. This moment is fullness itself. It is the entirety of the beauty and magnificence of your true nature, right here, just this, just as it is. There is a stillness here that is so utterly still. This is the presence of being. The presence of being is present to itself. This is the true nature, this presence that is utterly silent, utterly simple. This presence that is only present to itself, just being. And this presence is the aperture, the opening to openness, the opening to a vast landscape of consciousness that is empty of things and is only full of itself. A landscape of consciousness that is utterly full of consciousness itself, perceiving itself, the dancing light of divine intelligence. We could say moving as all that is. And yet it is this stillness that we want to become very familiar with, because it is this stillness, this presence, this silence, that is the aperture that carries you into the landscape of consciousness that can only be accessed when you are fully resting in pure knowing. It is in this resting that grace can come for you, that grace can carry you into the extraordinary beauty, the wilderness of your own consciousness. So it is to feel the simplicity of just being here, that your simple existence brings you to your own presence. Presence and existence are the same. It is not personal. Your existence is existence itself. So when we say the word you, we're not speaking to the me. We're speaking to the one that you are. Existence itself Your innate belonging is to existence itself. Every being that feels to be individual, when you come to existence, what feels like your existence, it is the very same existence that every being is coming to. The one being, the one existence. And your knowing here is the knowing of the simple truth, where there is no knower. Illusion falls away. And here you are, resting in the vast open landscape of your very own being, your very own heart. And the feeling of being yourself is infinite and unbounded. You have let go of the ties of bondage that are created out of the mental material, the maze of the mind. When you are resting in this beautiful truth, you are infinite, eternal being. You are timeless. You have escaped the play of time. You have escaped the dream, and you are only here now. This is the eternal nature. You are infinite. You are infinite, unbounded. There is nothing containing you, nothing limiting you. You cannot find yourself anywhere, and yet you know you are here. But the feeling of your infinite nature, it includes the feeling that you've always had of yourself. You are the infinite vastness and its point. So of course the point is included in infinity. It's just that you are not limited to the point. You are infinite and unbounded, that your knowing is impersonal. Your knowing is impersonal, and your knowing is infinite. How could the mind possibly make sense of any of this? The mind, by its nature, is finite, confined, tight, going round and round in circles in a little maze. So what we are speaking of is this gorgeous resonance of your knowing. The resonance of your knowing is deep and still and profound. There's a quality of recognition that is alive. This is the beauty. It is completely still and present to its own presence. And yet it is also vastly and wildly alive within its own knowing. The knowing itself is alive. But it's not alive in a worldly way. It's alive with its own resonance. It's alive with the purity, the vibration, the frequency of knowing. And so as these words come, this aliveness starts to become illuminated and enlivened. We could say that the stillness gets enlivened. The stillness gets enlivened. It's animated. It's animated because it's recognizing itself. Nothing to do with the being, the person. The being itself is animated and enlivened. And in that, the whole field. So the feeling, we could say you can feel it as if it's inside and outside equally. It's everywhere equally. It's just alive with its own knowing. Just alive with its own knowing. Sparkling, glimmering, shimmering, shining, self-aware awareness. Aware of itself is luminous. Luminous. Do not look for it with the mind, because you will not find it. It will feel frustrating. It is just to be here and receive the resonance of these words as they come, because the resonance is what carries you into the recognition that what is speaking is your own shimmering, glimmering self. What is speaking is wholeness itself, sharing its divine revelation of itself. And the revelation is not individual or is not personal in any way. It's completely impersonal. It's the whole field alive with itself. And you are the field, the infinite field of being. And as the infinite field of being, it is to receive the resonance of your true nature. You cannot make sense of it. You cannot make sense of it. You cannot make sense of it. So do not try. It is just to be here and just to receive the resonance of what is being spoken, the words, just as if you are listening to classical music. Do not give it meaning, but allow yourself to be moved by it. Allow yourself to be carried deeper and deeper into the resonance. Because what is being carried is your own nature in a quality of remembering, falling into the knowing of who you already are. This vast field is open. This vast field is empty of things. There is no content. There is just the aliveness of being, knowing itself, and alive with its own knowing. Infinite, eternal, timeless being. We cannot give the mind anything, because in truth the mind does not exist. Not in the way that it thinks it does, full of self-importance, full of wants and desires. Just patterns of consciousness that if we feed those patterns of consciousness, if we feed the egocentric patterns, then it just keeps cycling around. The invitation of truth is to allow these patterns to collapse, allow the complete collapse of all ego patterns. If the truth that is pulling you is real and pure, do not be satisfied with the play of the world, giving you what you think you want. Do not be satisfied. Allow the patterns to collapse. We are in such a profound time where ego patterns are being collapsed everywhere because delusion cannot reign. This has been an age of delusion, and it cannot be allowed to persist. Of course, there are beings that will continue to play in that, and that is just the journey that is happening. But where there is a knowing and an awakeness that is here, the recognition is possible that you can completely transcend all delusion and live in the golden age right here, right now. You can live as yourself. You can live under the radar of the dream. You can be in the world, but not of it. You can develop complete and utter dispassion where you are not touched by the world at all. You are utterly free. And when you are utterly free, you do not need the things of the world that your mind thinks are important. You do not need certain kinds of relationships that are just here to appease the ego, that are here to fill gaps and to bring you a false sense of security. It is to feel so fully and utterly what you think is missing about you, when you can really meet what you feel is missing and not try to fill it in with something. Do not try to get the filler out and fill it in with people and things and experiences, because that in itself is a time bomb, and the ticker is inside the mind. It's going to explode at some point. It's going to explode at some point, because the grace of the divine is that she will not let you rest in that which is not true. She will not let you rest in delusion, because this is a time of incredible profundity. It is a time to escape time. It is a time to know yourself and to live this truth all the way through. It is a time to recognize that all of the nonsense about being a seeker and finding ways of belonging in the world have got to end. They have to end. There is so much aliveness in the heart of the divine, because the longing is so great. And that is why she is fierce and ruthless in what she serves up out of the belly of her grace. But what she is serving up is the blossoming of her heart. She is serving up exactly the bitter pill that you need to take. She's serving up exactly the bitter medicine that your ego doesn't like the taste of, so that you can be free, so that you can be utterly free and stop appeasing the ego's wants, the safety, the security. It is the discovery that the great fraud is human love, is the human love itself. Personal love is the great fraud. It will keep you trapped. It will keep you bound, because it is just appeasing the personal wants and desires. It is the great fraud. Love itself is not personal. Love itself has got nothing to do with the world. Love itself is so pure and free and clear. It is not tangled into relationships in any way, not even with your beautiful dog. No. That's why dogs die. That's why dogs die, so that you can receive the grace of the love that you are. Everything that wants to break your heart is breaking your attachments. Everything that wants to break your heart and make you taste the bitter pill of loss and grief according to the mind, it's breaking down all of the delusion, all of the belief in a love that is deceitful and is just masquerading as the real thing. But the real thing is not dependent upon anything. The real thing is yourself. The real thing is your unconditioned, pure, true, immaculate nature. The real thing is who you are, and everything is conspiring to dissolve the fraudulent notions of investing your power in things of the world. So you see, love loves you. Love loves you so deeply that she wants you to know. She wants you to know that the love that is longed for is not in things of the world. The love that you long for is not in things of the world. Whatever feels like the most holy relationship, if it involves things, then it is not holy relationship. Holy relationship is relationship only with yourself. It is the meeting of yourself in the heart that is you. Meeting of yourself in the love that you are. We have to cut to the chase, right? Because these human bodies, they are limited, they are finite, and there is a period of grace that is given, that you are given a human body in order to discover this incredible, profound truth. You are here in this birth with a purpose. Yes, you have a purpose, but it's not all the nonsense that the me thinks it is. It is not to acquire wealth and security and satisfaction. No, it is to discover the truth of who you are. It is to discover your true nature, your eternal nature, so that when it comes a time in the play for the body to drop, you are just shedding the skin and you are moving gracefully from the manifest into the unmanifest, into your formless nature that you already know, right? So you have to know your formless nature. You have to know that which is beyond the play of the world. You have to know that which is beyond form and the manifest. It is even beyond what we could say is the soul. We're not talking about coming just to the soul. We are talking about coming to recognize that the soul is not individual. It's not about wading around in nonsense ideas about the soul, right? It's not about playing out the ideas of soulmates and eternal soul relationships that you're going to find your mate in heaven. No. Again, it's another delusion of the dream. And here we are, quashing all delusions with a laser sharp sword that is essential. It's essential because it's so tempting for the me to try to find a ledge somewhere, to try to find a gripping point somewhere. Any gripping point, any position, any ledge, it will keep you bound. It will keep you bound. The glory of this human life, the purpose of this human life is to know the truth of who you are, to know your divine, eternal, formless nature. And your knowing is the doorway into that deep truth. This journey into yourself is a complete abandonment of the game of the seeker. It is a complete letting go of everything that the mind thinks is important. So we say the word nonsense a lot, and we put lots of emphasis in it just to really stir the ego, because the ego doesn't like hearing that it's all a load of nonsense, utter nonsense, irrelevant, absolute load of rubbish. It doesn't like to hear that. But the gorgeousness is that where the nervous system is stirred, this is the grace, this is the beauty, because what is being stirred are those old sticky patterns that want to keep putting themselves back together. This is where Humpty Dumpty reigns supreme, right? Those sticky ego patterns that want to keep putting themselves back together and making a comfortable, satisfying world for the me, right? But you know, this glory, it's not what the mind imagines. So the mind imagines death and loss and terrible things. But in honesty, if this was terrible, if living in freedom and complete unconditioned love and beauty, if it was terrible, would we be speaking about it with a smile? Would we be speaking about it with this wild aliveness? that is calling all beings to surrender? No, no. Of course, to the ego sense, it feels like that, because the best that the ego can do is imagine, right? But everything that you're going to imagine, let's be honest, it's going to come true, because if you are imagining it and holding attention in imagining, that in itself is the patterns of consciousness that have to play out. They have to play out as karmic flows in order to be dismantled. So everything that you fear is likely to come forward if you fear it. Oh my goodness, for the ego, it's a nightmare. Everything I fear is going to come forward, and there's nothing that I can do to stop that. Yep, yep, that's right, that's right. What a celebration! What great glory! What great glory! Nothing that you can do, mind, nothing that you can do, but the great glory is you can be yourself. You can be yourself, and you can take the hand that is being extended to you. The hand that is being extended to you is the grace of your own nature. It is this utter submission into yourself. Because when you are in utter submission into yourself, into the divine, into the knowing with no knower, which is essentially no control, total openness, that the mind would call vulnerability, the most intense vulnerability. But in order to feel yourself, it is to feel everything that feels like stress in the nervous system, that feels like a charge in the nervous system. Because grace is bringing this forward. It's stirring the pot purposefully. It's poking and poking. It's looking for all of the places that really poke something, that stir things up. Of course, the mind doesn't imagine that that could possibly be very loving, but it is love itself. It is such kindness. It is such kindness. And the kindness that is moving it all, the grace of the mother that is moving it all, is moving it only ever for your freedom, moving it only ever in accordance to the laws of karma and the laws of nature. Nothing untoward happening, moving only in accordance, we could say, with the readiness of your own consciousness to go deeper into itself. Even if it sometimes feels like a shock, what comes in, that's exactly what's needed sometimes. But in truth, opening to deeper values of yourself can only happen when there is a readiness, because it is consciousness itself, the patterns of consciousness itself, the intelligence, the divine intelligence that is moving in and as everything. So, here now, perfect timing. It's only ever now. Everything is conspiring, we could say, to break the attachment to past that brings fears, break the attachment to future that keeps you in wild imaginings of things that the me would want in order to be happy. So everything is conspiring to break your attachments with past and future, and in that, to break the attachment to egocentric patternings that play on the surface of life as the cycle of sorrow, the cycle of joy and sorrow, the cycle of suffering. Everything is conspiring to break this down. Now that is love. That is kindness. That is grace. So just to feel that there is a resonance here underneath all the words that don't really matter. Underneath the words, there is a resonance. The resonance of truth is where the words are coming from. The resonance that flows as the words is your own consciousness speaking to yourself. The incredible divine magic of it is that if we were to ask each being what you have heard, each being will have heard something different. Out of these words, out of the resonance, everyone is receiving a unique tincture, a unique tincture of heart medicine, a unique resonance of your very own consciousness that is perfectly attuned, coming out of the deep, wild landscape of your own consciousness, rising to the surface of life, creating this appearance in order for you to receive exactly what is needed in this moment. Not what is needed by the ego sense. So the ego sense might not like it. But that doesn't matter. It is just to receive the grace that is flowing without evaluation, opinion, or judgment. It is just to feel there is a resonance of knowing. It is the vast, infinite spaciousness that recognizes itself. It is not a truth that is found in things. It is not a truth that is found in words. It is a truth that is found as a knowing of being. It is the truth of who you are. And it is vast, infinite freedom. It is magnificence and beauty. It is immaculate, pure, shining, shining being. The great glory of your very own self. The true nature is humility. The true nature is a depth of humility where there is no story, where there is no investment in story or the world, where there is nothing needed, where there is a knowing that everything is impersonal, and then a willingness to receive whatever flows, knowing that somehow this is the grace of the Mother, this is the grace of God, offering exactly what is needed. It is to allow life to live itself. Allow life to live itself through you and all the beings that are in your dreamscape. Recognizing that all of the characters that are on the stage of your life are created out of your own consciousness. They are created out of all of your desires, human desires that haven't been seen through, and they are created out of your greatest fears. What is also here on the surface of life, and you can recognize it as a twinkle, a shimmer, as a resonance inside you, is a reflection of yourself, a reflection of your clear nature. And you will see this reflection and you will know it without question. It is not in certain beings. It is in beings where you recognize that. There is a beauty, there is a knowing. These are clear reflections of yourself that illuminate the path. All of it is love. All of it is the flow of unconditional love that is dancing, dancing from the divine heart of the mother of all. Her light, her grace flows as unconditioned love, as unconditioned life. It's the same. It is this love that is conspiring for you to know the truth of love, to see through human love, personal love, and its fraudulent nature. It is when there is a putting your power into the external world, when it is giving the power to things of the world, even a single thread that is not resting in the truth of the being, it is a thread that will have to play itself out. And the grace is that it will. The love that you are, the love that you are, is a love that needs nothing, wants nothing. The love that you are is just alive in loving itself. And of course, this love that you are emanates. It emanates onto the surface. But it is not a love that binds. It is not a love that needs. It is a love that is so pure and clear. And it is the love that is immaculate, innocent, purity, the purity of divinity. It is clear love, clear love. It is full only of love, full only of an illuminated, shining light. And you already are. You already are. Notice how the habit is to go to where the mind takes you. The habit is to go to where there's something missing or lacking or not getting it. While right here now, the knowing of your true nature is shining. Why would you be distracted? by the finite nonsense that the mind gets distracted by, when the immaculate shining beauty of your true self is right here. The infinite, eternal presence, the incredible, incredible beauty that you are. Luminous, radiant, divine being. It is all there is. It is all there is. And yet you cannot rest in concept. The invitation is to know this truth all the way through. And everything is being offered. Everything is being offered to free all of the threads that are entangled. All of the threads of consciousness that are entangled are being invited to be freed. Where the mind cannot go, here you are. What you cannot imagine, you are. You are more spectacular, more profound, more beautiful than could ever be imagined. This incredible, bright being in utter devotion only to itself. And so it is to feel the resonance as the words come, and to fall into the resonance like falling into a river of yourself that is carrying you into the ocean of bliss that is the simplicity of being. So you feel the stillness that is the simple presence of being, existence itself, that is everywhere, unbounded, infinite, the timeless now, the eternal nature. There is this process of eliminating everything that keeps you from yourself. That is your unique view of the world. And your unique view of the world is the flow of grace that is here to perfectly orchestrate what is required for you to see every hiding place. The most profound receiving comes through recognizing the knowing with no knower, recognizing the simplicity of being, because then you are this vast, open, infinite being that is so willing to receive and is not taking anything personally. When you are taking it personally, it makes it much harder. Of course, when you are taking it personally, defense is going to come and protection is going to come. And that in itself is a play of karma that will have to play itself out. But when you are resting in the still, open presence of being, the openness of your true nature is just watching with an inner smile as the craziness of the world just does its thing, knowing that it does not touch you. It does not touch you. And yet it is offering this possibility for stress to be released and for all patterns of limitation to be dismantled, cleared through, to collapse, to completely collapse. Because when those patterns collapse, this is when the magic happens. Because when your consciousness has seen through all that it does not want, the pattern completely collapses. And then whatever has been playing as that on the surface of life, it just dissolves and disappears. It's like everything changes completely. Everything changes completely. And if there is a willingness to allow everything to change, you will find there is a freedom that is more profound than you could imagine. The habit is to try to move back into something that feels comfortable. But if the pattern is allowed to collapse completely, then it's done. So this invitation is to be the aware being that is so vigilantly watching that you are resting in the vigilance of the aware being that you are. Seeing how easy it is, even though you can know some value of your true nature, to see how easy it is to be pulled into patterns of egocentric behavior on the surface of life. Of course, what needs to play itself out just has to act itself out on the surface. But the invitation of your very own divine nature is to rest so deeply that you are just simply aware, shining the light that is ever present, illuminated beauty that is just simply aware, watching without a need in any way. Whatever it looks like, you cannot get it wrong. If there's a feeling that you might be getting it wrong, then that energy signature that is releasing a stress in the nervous system is perfect. The human condition is deeply rooted in a fear of getting it wrong and a needing to be seen to behave in the right ways out of a fear of getting it wrong, out of a fear of being vulnerable, out of a fear of making a mess. Out of a fear of losing fraudulent love. Right? You start to feel how crazy it is. Whoa. As soon as you start to see how crazy it is, it's because you are seeing from the aware being that knows what is true, that love can never be lost. The love that you are can never be lost. Anything that you are afraid of losing is not real. It was never real in the first place. Anything that you are afraid of losing is not yourself. And let's be honest here, even the life of your body, which is the greatest fear that most humans have, that is not even yourself, right? Anything that you are afraid of losing, the body, the health, it is not yourself. It is not the truth of who you are. Everything is conspiring for you to know your eternal nature that has never and can never be away from itself, can never lose itself. It is this constant, unrelenting divine invitation to know the absolute, unquestionable truth of who you are. And let that truth be lived in every single aspect of life on the surface. This is her conspiracy. She wants to move as pure light, love, bliss on the surface of life. And so she is refining as many of her divine puppets, her divine vehicles as possible, so that she can use these forms to dance this incredible, vibrant truth. This is her invitation to you. And it is just to turn into the divine. Does not matter what word we use for that, but it is to turn to yourself, to the divine, again and again and again, to shoot yourself with every single atom of your beingness into the divine again and again and again, until there is nothing that remains that feels apart from her. Until you recognize that divinity is all there is, that Mother is all there is, God is all that is. To play in the realm of ego and to kowtow to ego is to rob you, of the truth of who you are right now.